Welcome to another video, guys. Today we're gonna have a pretty fun video because we're gonna be talking about 10 things you probably didn't know exist in Raid. These secret little things and mechanics range from ways to save your clan boss key, or get yourself a lot more silver, or just downright explain why your run fails. So stick around to the end and I'm sure you're gonna learn something new even if you're a veteran. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris05 and I specialize in Raid Shadow Legends guides, tips, and shard opening videos, and I also go live each Tuesday and Thursday giving you guys free account takeovers so you can enjoy Raid and progress faster in the game for free. So if you find the video helpful and think I've earned your subscription, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe and like button. But now, let's get into it. Starting off with a quick bonus tip, if you're thinking about starting yourself a new account or haven't played Raid before, you can use a special download link that starts you off with so much extra stuff, and you also have 24 hours to use the promo code section to get yourself an extra legendary champion. And honestly, this tip I wish I knew back in the day when I was first starting off, because I started off with a frickin' extra rare. So yeah, nowadays Raid is really spoiling new players, and you can start yourself off with 3 legendary champions in your first week if you know how to do it. Check out my detailed video about that if you still haven't. Okay, so the first tip comes down to the clan boss. And did you know you guys can actually solo Ultra Nightmare clan boss with just your first starter champion, Kale? There we go, Kale's locked and loaded. Mine is a little bit on the beefy side, but you can do it even without it, and here you have it. And then you just spam A1 for 5,000 turns. Nah, I'm joking, guys. The real tip is you can actually save your clan boss keys if you've accidentally loaded up the wrong team or the wrong difficulty, or downright you just see things are not gonna go your way. You could actually save the entire key without having to waste it. All you gotta do is, if you're on the phone, just close the app. If you're on the computer, just Alt F4. Yes, I'm sure I want to exit the game, and this is indeed gonna save your key. There we go, we log back in, and the game is gonna tell us something happened, but it's actually not gonna eat up the key. And honestly, this is something I learned like a couple of months ago. I'm not even kidding. Been playing this game for over 2 years now, and I still get to learn cool tricks like this. And here we have it. The game is telling me something happened. We don't care. We know what happened. We literally did what happened. And here it is. The clan boss key still is here, and it even didn't change my team back to Kale. It left the original team in here. And yeah, this way you are going to be able to save yourself plenty of keys, which really is helpful, especially if you're testing yourself a new clan boss team, if you're just super close to hitting that one key or something like that. This way you get to do your keys over and over again, which is definitely pretty awesome. The second tip you need to know is there is such a thing as turn counter in Raid Shadow Legends. And obviously we all know nowadays there's 1,000 turns as a limit in Hydra, but also did you know there's a 1,500 turn limit on other dungeons? This is especially important against things like the Scarab King, which can definitely be quite the slugfest. But yeah, if you're planning on building a champion that just doesn't die and just deals a super minuscule amount of damage, that's probably gonna fail because the 1,500 turns are probably not gonna be enough for that champion to kill the boss you're trying to kill. Tip number 3 is gonna be regarding the Prism Shards and also the Prism Souls while we're at it. And here there is a neat little trick you could be using if you actually want to save yourself Prism Shards for other bigger, better events. Right now I would say this Prism Shard event is not especially important to me, so I would actually rather have extra shots at pulling Prism Shards champions on other events. And what you could do is you can actually save these Prism Shards. For those of you who don't know, Prism Crystals actually do get auto-summoned after an event ends, so if you actually want to mitigate that auto-summon and actually save yourself some Prism Crystals for the next event, you could actually do so by not claiming the reward from the tournaments. Right now I can't really click into the tournament to show you what I mean, but you obviously know what I mean. Basically, the Prism Crystals are going to be at the top of the naughty list, and what you want to do is just leave that and wait out the event to end, and then go back to the tournament that gives the crystals and collect them after the event is over. This way you actually get to save yourself an extra Prism Crystal shard pool or 2. In some cases they do give extra sources of getting yourself free Prism Crystals, and that could actually help you get yourself extra chances of opening something you probably would like a little bit more. Like I said, the same thing happens also in the Prism Souls event. Right now we just had one and it's over, but again, if you don't get these Prism Jewels, they are again not gonna get auto-summoned for you at the end of the event. On the number 4 spot, let's talk about one of the most annoying things in Raid Shadow Legends, the 3% rule. And I'm sure a lot of the newer players have no idea what I'm talking about, but there is such a thing as the 3% rule in Raid, which basically is regarding resistance and accuracy. Now, we all know that if you have enough accuracy, you should be landing debuffs basically 100% of the time, but it's actually not 100% of the time, it's actually 97%. And the reason behind that is Raid has this 3% rule which most players really hate, and for good reason, which basically means even if a champion has 0 resistance and the opponent has, let's say, 1000 accuracy, the enemy still has a 3% chance of actually resisting a debuff. And this is especially annoying for dungeon runs where it's super important for you to be landing your debuffs. And also this goes vice versa. If you have, let's say, 1000 resistance and the enemy has 0 accuracy, the enemy still actually has a 3% chance of landing that debuff as well. And both of these rules are super annoying, but you definitely need to know they exist in Raid, and this is gonna help you explain to yourself why you might have failed a run, and it's not your fault, guys. RNG just sometimes could be like that. On the number 5 spot, and basically on number 6, let's talk about affinities and what they do. Now, everybody is introduced to the affinity system right after they start the game, and you should know that red is strong against blue, but it's weak against green. Green is strong against red, but it's weak against blue, and blue is strong against green and weak against red. And we also have the voids, which don't have any strong or weak affinities, which is preferable. But what do these strong and weak affinities actually really mean is something a lot of players don't really know, and even some veterans probably don't know some of these exact numbers that happen depending if you're landing weak or strong hits. Raid does a decent job at explaining this, not straight up into the game, but they still do have a forum where they do talk about these things, and here it is. If an attacker has an affinity advantage, you have a 30 chance of a skill landing as a strong hit, and this also gives you an extra 15% chance of a skill landing as a critical hit, which is actually kind of cool. Like, if you know you're gonna be fighting against a good affinity for you, you might even build your champion with 15 less crit rate just for the sake of actually getting yourself a little bit bigger, better stats, but in reality nobody really does that. You're always gonna go for the 100 crit cap and not care about silly things like these. After all, we're not building a champion just for a specific thing, we just want him to be crit capped at all times. And what does the strong hit do? Basically, it gives you 30% extra damage when you're strong hitting, which is definitely kind of cool. But the really important stuff comes with the weak hits. This is where the disadvantage really kicks in, and strong hits are cool, but they're nowhere near as powerful as weak hits are negative for you. So what happens if we have a bad affinity matchup? Damage is straight up reduced by 20%, no questions asked. That's literally straight out the gate. So we have an actual dedicated bad thing happening for you just for bringing a bad affinity straight out, whereas with strong affinity you don't have that 20% extra damage straight out, it's just a chance. But not only that, with bad affinity you also have a 35% chance of getting a weak hit. What does a weak hit do? It decreases the damage by 30 additional percent. That's not from 20 to 30, no, that's 20 and then 30 of that 20% less damage you're dealing extra. And this thing also does not land debuffs in that case, which is super disgusting. Basically, if you want to be landing a debuff through a hit, if you get yourself a weak hit, that debuff is just not happening. But there's a little caveat here. If a champion actually just places a debuff without hitting, without it actually mattering if it hit or not, affinities don't matter. So even if you have a bad affinity on a champion, if the skill states places debuffs instead of attack all enemies and has a chance of placing yada yada yada, you get the picture. Basically, if it's just the place debuffs, it's always gonna happen. An example off the top of my head would be Geomancer's A3, which is actually super important. But another example where weak hits could matter would be Ninja's A2 against Sand Devil 25, which is blue affinity. In that case, if Ninja does a triple weak hit against the Sand Devil, it's not gonna land a HP burn, which is definitely gonna slow down your run. But not only that, when you do have a bad affinity, you also have a 15% less chance of slapping a critical hit. And I know what some of you might think, well, I'm just gonna build my bad affinity champion with 115 crit rate, and I also thought like that. But actually, the way this is calculated is, once you're in the fight, if you have 100% crit rate, that's cool and all, and heck, even if you have 150%, that's okay, but you're still gonna have a 15% chance of not landing a critical hit, no questions asked. So even if you have 5000 crit rate, you still have that 15% chance of not landing it as a critical. So yeah, I hope this clears out the whole bad affinity thing and really opens your eyes to how important it is to actually bring good affinity champions into a fight, or at least neutral affinities, just because bad affinities are really bad. Tip number 7 definitely is an interesting one, and it is regarding the multi-battles. We all know multi-battles are not exactly the most amazing thing in the world to be getting as a reward in raids. God knows I know that, like, look at how many I have in my inbox just waiting to get expired probably if I forget about them, and I probably will. But they can actually be pretty helpful for you guys. If you are in a pinch for time, let's say you're trying to bang trying out champion training or something like that, what you could do with multi-battles is actually farm food champions on auto completely. And yes, obviously multi-battles does that, but did you guys know you can actually also get yourself a Q champion with foods? Look at this. We can actually load up to 20 extra champions you could be using as foods, and the game is automatically gonna swap through them in the multi-battle section. In this way, you don't have to think about this thing, basically. You just let your campaign farmer do the thing on auto, and the game is gonna automatically swap these free champions when they hit 20. And gonna put in the next batch of free food champions. You want to get the 20, so you can get yourself some nice champion training points while getting yourself some nice chickens too. This thing can also get replicated in RSL Helper, by the way, and that program definitely is a godsend, but sometimes it actually bugs. I have had situations where I think I'm farming a ton of food, and when I come back, there's some stupid error, or just crashed, or anything in between. Whereas with Raid, at least you know it's gonna work. It's not the best in the world, like you don't have some of the cool features RSL Helper has in store for you, but it definitely still is potentially helpful. And here we get to see the report. I stopped it prematurely because I'm not going to talk about this for 5 minutes, but yeah, you get the picture. This thing would have actually done multi-battles until all of these are at 20. Well, it would have if I actually thought it to spend gems. When we are doing these, we gotta either check this or just make sure we never run out of energy, or maybe we just have thousands of energy to begin with, but yeah, you get the picture. Basically, with these multi-battles, you could actually save yourself a lot of time and prepare a lot of extra chickens this way. Tip number 8 is really important, guys. Here, this is something I actually thought the game had a bug or something, but with the new preset manager, which is super important by the way, you need to know you can have yourself 5 champion presets and also up to 50 global presets. Here you can see I have been doing a good job of actually saving myself plenty of presets. I'm already at 36, and a few days ago I rebuilt my Arbiter and I wanted to save myself a new global preset, but the game just wasn't allowing me, and I was like, what's happening, Step bro? Like, why are you doing this to me? I clearly have room. I have 36 out of 50, and this button was just grayed out the same way Save as Champion preset is grayed out for me right now. So now it does actually allow me to save, and the reason behind that is I actually made room not on the global presets, but on the stupid rings, guys. The accessories also have themselves a separate global presets counter, and I was actually capped at 50 here, and since I was trying to save a global preset, both rings and gear, this thing was actually graying out this button for me. If you also have such a problem, you could just click this thing off, or heck, you could just clear off all of those bad accessories you've accidentally saved as global presets, and God knows the accessories are not that important to be on a preset, like they are already heavily limited just to that same faction. But yes, if the game is wonky and this button is grayed out for you, now you know why. Thanks again, Cheap Vodka, for the heads up. While we're on the champion screen, let's talk about another thing that is actually not exactly obvious for a lot of people. How are stats calculated in Raid Shadow Legends? When you're building your champions in this screen, things like percentages, let's say defense percent, HP percent, and speed, and so on and so forth, get calculated based on your champion's base stats, guys. So if I have 60% HP on these gloves, they are gonna increase by 60% of 21,135. With the defense, we have 60% defense. That is gonna increase from the 1101 we have here. And as for speed, things like speed percent out of the speed boots, for instance, that's 12%. The 12% is gonna get calculated from the base 110 speed the champion has. And so on and so forth, you basically get it. However, once we have our total stats done, like this, let's say, right now we're in the Hydra screen, these are the stats that are actually going into the fight. This is important because once you're in the fight, these are gonna be the stats that are gonna get increased by things like 60% increased defense buff, 50% increased attack, 30% increased speed, as well as things like 50% increased accuracy, 50% increased res. Those would be pretty important. So if we had a 50% increased accuracy, Arbiter would be smacking with about 600 plus accuracy instead of the 409. If we had 30% increased speed, that's also gonna blast through the roof out of the base 428 she has, and the 60% increased defense is gonna be based on the 3200. So yeah, definitely do not neglect all of these important buffs. They're not based off the base stats of champions. You are actually getting yourself tons and tons of extra stats this way. And tip number 10 on this list is gonna be regarding shields. And no, I'm not gonna waste your time telling you shields sell for more than the other artifacts you could be farming in dungeons and campaign, but it is regarding shields indeed. With this tip, you could be getting yourself a little bit of extra silver when you're forging useless gear, like let's say resilience set. If you're gonna be blasting through the forge this way, what you could do is actually use the somewhat useless type charms you have at your disposal. From the type charms, you could actually be using up your shield charms, and this way you are gonna have increased odds of actually crafting yourself shields, which we already established do indeed sell for a little bit more, so this way you are actually gonna get yourself a little bit more silver. It's not a huge tip, but in the end of the day, raid is a marathon, so every little bit of silver here and there definitely does help. And there you have it, guys. 10 interesting things you probably didn't know in raid. I also definitely learned a thing or two while preparing for this video, and do let me know in the comments what you didn't know out of these 10 tips. Or heck, brag in the comments that you knew everything. Maybe you are an actual veteran raid god. Anyway, I hope you found the video helpful or at least interesting, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you slap that like and subscribe button. Don't forget you can download raid and start the game the right way with extra amazing legendary champions, and also check me out live on stream each Tuesday and Thursday for free account takeovers. Thanks for watching. I'm Crystal5, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.